This is Mike Collins with The Rational Speculator. With me today is Martin Turenne, President and CEO of FPX Nickel Corp. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Michael. Nice to see you again.
Likewise. So in the last 7 months since we last spoke, you and FPX have accomplished quite a few milestones. Would you like to provide a recap?
Yeah, it's certainly been a busy period. I was saying to someone just earlier on a call, it's probably been our busiest year, 2022, in terms of the amount and the frequency of news releases, sort of setting out all the various milestones that we've reached. You know, at a high level, I think we've been able to provide news in our two main sort of paths. The first is sort of the path towards developing our Baptiste deposit to the next stage of technical study, getting that through ultimately into the completion of a feasibility study and into permitting and all of the work that underpins that, most principally kind of metallurgical test work. And then number two, the second path is sort of the discovery potential that we continue to see at the Dakar Nickel District. So of particular focus this year for us will be a drill program at the Van target, which we've just undertaken, or that we've just commenced here, a fairly sizable step out program. So a lot of news, I think, that we've put out over the course of the last several months that moves forward, you know, FPX's progress in both of those regards, sort of Baptiste project development and discovery potential and execution at the new Van target.
So the metallurgical studies, I know there's a lot of interest in those. Phase 2 and phase 3. Can you speak a little bit about those?
Yeah. So as our viewers today may recall, you know, we target a style of nickel mineralization where the nickel is hosted in a mineral called awaroite, which is an alloy of nickel and iron. This isn't a typical sulfide or laterite deposit. And so given that it is a bit of a unique mineral, a novel mineral from an extractive standpoint, you know, we hold ourselves to a very high standard in terms of demonstrating the robustness of the metallurgical process that we had previously outlined in a bench scale or lab scale metallurgical test work. So with that in mind, in mid-2021, we embarked on an almost 18-month metallurgical test program to support an ultimate preliminary feasibility study on the project. The first phase of that 3-phase MET program, those results were put out in December, really covered the sort of the front end of the flow sheet. Second phase results are due imminently here in the month of July. That will really be focused on the performance of flotation, which is the sort of the secondary stage of recovery. And in phase 3 of the MET program, we'll have the largest ever bulk sample pilot program done in the project's history. So just under 20 tons of material are being treated in a pilot plant in Quebec City. And the early results of that will also be reported on in our next news release that'll largely cover the phase 2. But the sum total of all of these 3 phases of metallurgical test work, I think, will really be a major step forward in conclusively demonstrating to the market that not only is the flow sheet here that we've outlined simple, one that yields high recoveries, but it's also reproducible, not just at the bench scale, but also at the pilot scale. And we think that's going to be a major de-risking milestone for the project.
Okay, and there are some other studies and planned work coming up too for this next year. So can you speak a little bit about that in terms of the PFS, some maybe prospective timelines for that?
Yeah, so another piece of the hydrometallurgical test work that I didn't touch on just now was additional hydromet test work that we're going to do to demonstrate our ability to produce nickel sulfate. So that's battery grade nickel chemical for the EV battery market. So there'll be test work as well as work on an engineering study we've done around our ability to produce nickel sulfate. Both of the test work and the engineering study work will be out here in the coming months. So we're quite excited about that. We've also done some comprehensive trade-off studies of various, engineering parameters related to the project, be they the sort of comminution, so the kind of crushing and grinding technologies that we'll be using, various discussion of tailings deposition strategies, as well as looking at different sort of scale options for starting with maybe a bit of a smaller scale on day one, thus reducing the upfront CapEx burden. Going forward, we have reinitiated environmental baseline studies. We're doing geotechnical drilling to understand sort of site conditions for on-site infrastructure. So we're really doing all of the work that's required to ultimately deliver a very robust PFS. A PFS or pre-feasibility study that really meets major company standards. I think a lot of times junior companies come out with PFSs that are really just glorified PEAs. But I think when we come out with our PFS, it'll be something that's really done to the standard of a company much larger than ours.
Excellent. And the Van deposit, that is growing as well. And the company had a news release today as well. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the Van target is the discovery that we made in our drilling, first drilling there last year. And I'll just share my screen here. So hopefully everyone can see that. So last year we did a drill program that covered this area here, and you can see the traces of the drill holes that were executed on last year. That initial drill program really confirmed a discovery of a major new nickel deposit. Just to give a sense of scale here, from one corner to the other, you're looking at about a 1 kilometer distance or so within that yellow circle that I've just highlighted. And so this is really truly a major discovery that we made in that drilling. This year we'll be stepping out first vault to the south in an area that's covered by overburden. This is an area that I'm now drawing over in yellow, an area south of where we drilled last year, where the increasing thickness and grades of the holes we drilled last year suggest there should be continuity of mineralization in this area 1. We'll also be stepping out to the west in area 2, out here, where in the past we've taken samples of outcrop with the same style of nickel mineralization. So you see all the blue and the red and the orange and yellow dots or squares in area 2. Those all indicate where we've taken outcrop samples in the past. And so the drilling there this year will be to follow up on that to see if that mineralization continues in the subsurface. So the entire scale of the Van target is one that suggests it could potentially host a deposit that's larger and or higher grade than Baptiste. And so while we continue to move forward on de-risking of Baptiste, we're really excited by expanding, the discovery potential here at Van.
Well, it looks very promising. Very promising. Are there any other corporate developments that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, one thing that we haven't had a chance to talk to the market too much about yet is the formation of a new subsidiary company called CO2 Lock Corp. This is a new entity that's now majority owned by FPX. So FPX shareholders indirectly own a share in CO2 Lock. CO2 Lock is a company that was formed to pursue the opportunities in large scale, low cost carbon sequestration in geological settings that are similar to the setting at our Descartes nickel district. So the host rocks at Descartes contain a mineral called brucite, which is a magnesium hydroxide mineral. And when brucite is exposed to CO2, it will actually naturally sequester that CO2. So it combines with carbon dioxide to form a magnesium carbonate mineral that locks the CO2 away in perpetuity. We know as it relates to our main Baptiste project that the tailings at the facility will ultimately sequester a large amount of CO2 and potentially render Baptiste as a carbon neutral nickel mining operation. However, we believe in certain geological settings worldwide that you could actually develop operations that are designed not around extraction of minerals, but rather on extraction of this brucite for the purpose of sequestering carbon dioxide. That is, that the carbon dioxide that could be stored in these host rocks could generate carbon credits to drive profitable operations in and of themselves. So we've recently hired a new CEO for CO2 Lock. His name's Cooper Quinn. He's a geoscientist. He's been working in the mining industry for well over 10 years, has a great track record of creating value, running some other mining companies in the past. He's now come over to join CO2 Lock to really push that concept forward. And that's something we think that's going to continue to create a lot of value for FPX shareholders. But you know, it's an investment that we now have that isn't really at all reflected, or we don't think we get any credit for it in the capital markets. As you know, there's been a lot of new sort of carbon focused issuers come to market in Canada over the last year. All of them are focused on the sort of the royalty and the streaming model. There's no technology companies as such focused on carbon mitigation. That's what CO2 Lock is, and that's where we see there's going to be a significant opportunity to create value for FPX shareholders going forward.
It's an incredible opportunity. I'm really glad to see the company pursuing it. So if that's it, Martin, I want to say I'm very excited to be a shareholder of FPX, and I think the future is very bright indeed. So thank you very much for your time today, and we'll speak again at some point.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.